right into it with engineering projects.
Good evening. Dave Borkowski, city engineer, and this is John Schnick, the assistant city engineer. We're going to present a slice of some projects that engineering services is working on, specifically related to traffic and things like that. Can everybody hear me okay? Sort of.
A little closer.
Okay, it's so the outline for tonight specifically is path and bridge path and bridge projects first. Then we'll get into some intersection projects, road projects, facilities, building issues, and ADA, American Disability Act. First one is Picnic Park and Drake Field. This is a 2017 SPLOST project that has kind of been on hold for a little bit. We've got the new Picnic Park recreation area here. The idea behind this was to connect the Picnic Park area with Drake Field with a pedestrian bridge. We have completed the bid process on this. This was part of design build package several years ago that Kiewit got awarded. So they're already on contract to do this. We've completed the geotech. We did a bunch of stuff several years ago trying to do a cart path bridge, and it was really expensive. So we're sticking with the original intent with a pedestrian bridge. So we've still got to finish some design. Kiewit's got to work on that, and then we can get to construction. Basically, we want this bridge to fit with the look of the other ones that are around the lake. You know, the same type of weathering steel and truss members.
Even just for a pedestrian bridge?
Yes.
I would think it's all downscaled.
Just be narrower and not as beefy.
And how much are we spending on this, do you think?
I don't really have a good educated guess right now because we hadn't completed the design or a concept or cost estimate at this point.
But do you think it will be fully funded from the SPLOST?
Yes, I believe so. I do remember the cost for the cart path bridge was almost $1 million just for that short little area. So next one is the county project.
Dave, we have a question.
Oh, I just don't know when we can jump in and interrupt you, but I just had
Anytime.
okay, just good to know. For all of these projects, do you have like a date and timeline for them of like when they'll start and how long do you think they'll take?
We do for some, not all.
Do you have one for the last project you just showed?
The last project,
That-
no. The Picnic Park one, no.
Right.
We've
No?
we just got the contractor to get back on this one now that they've started the work on the Lake Peachtree 54 bridge. Now they can get started on working on this one. So we've had meetings and stuff, but we don't have a timeline yet.
And if I remember correctly in our conversations, this was a project that was deferred for a couple of different items. They were looking at originally like a floating bridge that went across, and there was a couple, before I got here, there was a couple of different designs that were floated, and now we're going back to this and revisiting based on what we originally had planned for that location.
That's fine. We've been batting this around for 20 years. Remember Randy Gatto?
Yes.
Many years ago. Had a plan, and that one didn't come to fruition. This has been a long time coming.
We had Randy did have a small kind of like gangway type thing that you see in Florida that we got that was built, and it was somewhere in this area, I think, but it just didn't hold up. The materials and construction, we ended up taking it out. So
Okay.
this will be much better.
Okay.
This project, this is a county-initiated project. The tunnel under Red Wine at the intersection of Robinson, and this is this is not the actual tunnel, what it's gonna look like. I just couldn't find a good, couldn't find a good picture. But, they still have to address plan comments that they received from us on this project. They need to acquire property yet. I talked to the county engineer yesterday, I think it was. They still need right-of-way from 4 properties. They're deciding right now whether to move forward with putting it out to bid without having the right-of-way acquired and kind of do it concurrently. They're in the process, their board is in the process of making that decision. If by chance it works, they would try to build this summer while school's out. That was their goal. If not, if things don't work out, they may ask the city's thoughts on doing this project during the school year. That's a touchy thing, because the whole road would have to be closed. Redwine would have to be closed to install the tunnel, because it's so deep that you couldn't do it like you've seen on 54 possibly over the years, where you do one half of the road and you still have room on the other for traffic. They wouldn't be able to do that. They'd have to close the whole road for about 3 weeks. So that's kind of a big deal, and so they may be coming and asking the city's opinion on that. So, and this is funded through their county splost. The path projects that you saw, or you may have seen going up Redwine and whatnot, those were funded from Safe Routes to School, if I understand correctly, federal grant projects.
Hey, Dave, excuse me, I have a question. Having driven past the Redwine Tunnel location on numerous occasions, there are some drainage issues there that I've noticed or observed, where the water puddles and remains on the surface of the ground. Have they reevaluated the feasibility of what the water drainage is at the bottom of the hole where the tunnel's gonna go?
They have a drainage design for the tunnel where they're going to put drains at the upstream end to catch water so that it will drain. We've had some comments on those plans that they're addressing now, but yes, they do have a plan to try and control that water so that it doesn't flow through the tunnel like we have
And
some in the city.
Yeah, we have
now,
several
so.
tunnels that have really water that just sits in there, and certainly with the volume of traffic that we anticipate with the school, if the water is too deep, it's gonna be a real problem.
Yes, we've let them know about the experiences that we've had with some of our tunnels, and their engineers are trying to avoid that problem. And I think there was another question we had received about standing water on some of their paths that they had just built, and they were going to address that with the contractor. It's on their punch list. So
You mean further north on Red
Yes,
Wine? That one
further
that just,
north.
yeah, I've
Mhm.
also driven past there, and there's 2 or 3 places where it's really, I mean, the water's actually undermining, like, all the way out to the road. It's so badly puddled.
So I just wanted to point out really quick on this project before we moved away, that this is the project as we know it, as our engineers have been discussing it. There have been no other alternative plans that we've been working on or submitted based on this, so everything has been engineered towards that the tunnel.
Hopefully not the puddle.
Thank you, Suzanne. So, if there's gonna be additional talks, we haven't had that conversation yet to determine whether or not, this was gonna be the preferred route or not.
Well, I'm trying to figure out if we need to have that talk.
My most recent conversation was with the county commission chairman, and that was today, and this is where their money's going. And he mentioned also hoping to build this summer.
that's the hope. Okay. This next project, I'll let John talk about.
All right. So this next project is at North Peachtree Parkway and the Kedron Docks. So this is a hawk signal crossing, similar to the one on Crosstown and on Rockaway. This picture is actually from the one on Crosstown Drive that you can see. So far this project has been fully designed and construction has started. They have already done the path realignments across there and put in the new crosswalk markings. And there was a delay basically waiting on the signal poles to be delivered. They had to be manufactured and they took a little bit longer to get manufactured, as many things do these days. The things left is material testing, so they have to do testing on the anchor bolts to make sure that the signal arms will be sturdy when they're put in. And once that testing is completed, they'll move forward with installing the poles, connecting up all the electrical and wiring the lights, and then it will be fully up and running. And this project was funded through the impact fees.
And when do you think it might be up and running?
I talked to them earlier this week, and they're moving forward with the testing, hopefully by the end of the week. So I expect they'll be back working on it by the end of February. And the work that's left is relatively short, so it should be just a couple months before they're finished.
Thank you. Anything?
Good.
So this next project is the multi-use path extension along North Peachtree Parkway. This was set up in the SPLOST, the 2017 SPLOST. It was originally planned to go all the way from Walt Banks down to the Kedron Docks hawk signal. After investigating further, we determined that really the purpose of this is to provide path connectivity to people who aren't currently on the path system, and all of those properties are located between Walt Banks and Parkway Drive, right up there. The path section between Parkway Drive and the Kedron Hawk signal is an extremely steep section of slope next to the road, so it would be a lot more work, money, time to do that, to build that section. And since it wouldn't actually connect anyone new to the pass, we left it out of our concept design, and we've gotten our concept design done for this first section. We just got that design back today, actually. So it shows along here where the path would go and where the retaining walls would need to be built. And then also we will need a maintenance easement along that entire section into those properties. We have a meeting scheduled with the property owners for tomorrow to talk through so that they're aware of what the plan is, where the proposed path is, and the impacts that will be on their properties as we go through construction. Any
So in
questions?
order for like residents on that side where, what is it, Parkway Estates right there, it's across from Interlochen, that's where the path would go to, is that right?
Right, that's
So in
where the
order
path
for them
would
to
go.
cross, because there's not a crossing across the parkway right there, they'd have to go all the way down to Walt Banks?
So they would have a choice. They could go all the way down to Walt Banks, but also from Parkway Estates, you can't see it on the map here, it's off the back, but they can take their internal neighborhood streets and get to the Hawk crossing at the
Oh, they
Kedron Boat
can?
Docks. Yep, they can
There's a
loop
route
that
to go
direction
around.
and come across there. So that neighborhood already has, once the Hawk signal's up, they'll already have a safe crossing right there. Or they could take the new section all the way down to Walt Banks.
And then anyone
They'd
south
have
of
two
that
choices.
can go through that neighborhood
Yeah.
still to
Right.
to there that way, okay.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, this area right here that's proposed where those properties are, these are the folks that right now have issue of actually getting to the path on the other side of the road because you're not allowed legally to go across the parkway with a golf cart. So some of the conversations that we've had with those property owners over there putting that in, we like the idea, but the conversation is going to have to be, is there going to be any additional land acquisition in order to make that happen? Because we start getting into their private property at that point, and that's what they're going to have that meeting about.
And we have a couple of the sheets from the plans, if council would want to look at it, just to see the impacts of, building a path on the side of a hill. So we have that there if we all want to look at it.
Okay. Good.
Okay, next project, 54 Lake Peachtree Bridge that I had previously talked about. The design's been completed, got the GDOT permit, had our pre-construction meeting, so everything is basically a go. They started yesterday on this, starting to cut trees. So they're moving, they're gonna be moving right along. The approximate completion date is June of this year. So weather permitting and other unforeseen construction issues, but that is finally moving along. We will be working closely with our public information folks, getting information out about when we will have path closures. We had one already that we needed to close the path, so we had posted detours, and I think our contractors even put signs out along the way as well to help folks with it. But this is the one detour around the bottom of the lake. We have another one that may need to come into play when we have to close the path that goes underneath the existing highway bridge. We'll have to do that on certain occasions just for safety, like when we're driving piles on that end. We don't want people going underneath there or lifting the bridge out at night. So we'll be working closely with them to put out these notifications to let people know in advance. The contractor is also putting up notices on their bulletin boards that they have out there in advance too, to let people know. So we're really doing everything we can other than, going door to door. I mean,
Right.
We're doing a lot to try and get the word out. We've also notified the schools to keep up with this on Facebook and whatnot, because I know students use this going back and forth as well. So we look forward to this project.
Dave, before we move off that, can you talk a little bit about the detour, how the carts are going to get across that when they close the current bridge down, and any possible impacts that might be on 54?
Yes. Let me go back to this right here. We worked out with GDOT to not have this path closed for 6 months. Basically, they're letting us have part of the shoulder of the highway so that carts and bicyclists and pedestrians can still go through this area. The majority of the time during construction, there's going to be a concrete barrier that's going to separate the carts in the shoulder of the road from the cars on the highway. So that's a great thing. So we won't have as many impacts to the cart path traffic as we normally would have. And then during certain times as well, they're going to have to close at least one lane of the highway, specifically when they're pile driving, when they have to have a crane there. The rear end of the crane is going to stick out into the highway, and it's going to impact that. So there'll be certain times as well that there'll be one lane.
Will the detour be single lane? Like you can't go both ways at the same time?
For the path?
The detour,
Yeah.
the shoulder that we're using on the side of 54?
For their golf carts?
Correct.
Yeah.
Golf
It'll be
carts will be able to
bi-directional.
pass each other. It'll be
Really?
two lanes, yes.
On the
It was-
detour.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's wider than you think.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's great.
GDOT really came through for us on this to allow us to design this and get those carts in their highway basically
Yeah.
during the time of construction. So. And there will be work at night during certain phases of this project. Pile driving won't be one of them,
Noise ordinance.
unless you want it. But But there will be some work at night. They'll put up those barricades and stuff at night. And I think we're going to do the demo of the existing bridge at night. Is that correct? So we're taking full advantage of all the hours in the day for this project. Okay.
Can I stop for a second? Is there anybody in the audience who has a specific, quick question or concern about anything we've covered so far? I think it's all pretty moving forward and self-explanatory. Take the microphone for me, just real quick. That way it'll go on record, and let me know your name and subdivision. Yes, I
Yeah.
am.
Take notes.
Hello, my name's Ed Ortman, and my question was, when you were doing the detour for the bridge, is there a way you could shorten that detour, because that's a 4-mile detour around the lake, and go up Flat Creek and come across and cut through the golf cart, or the golf course? Use the golf course path. Just a thought. I don't know if you can use the golf cart paths on the golf course or not.
Yeah, they are private property, so we hadn't.
But
yeah,
as a detour, I don't know if it was available or not. And that was just my only question I had to ponder.
Very
Okay.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Can we go back to the Peachtree Estates slide?
And start with your name and your subdivision, if you would, please.
Jason Smith, Peachtree Estates. I'm trying to figure out, if you're planning on stopping there at Walt Banks Court, you know it's gonna create another path for the high school students, right? And you're going to create another pinch point down at Lake Kedron.
I'm not sure I follow pinch point at Lake Kedron.
So it's gonna start here at Walt Banks Court, right? And this trail's gonna go down to the lake, is that right?
Yes, the red light.
There you go.
The
We're
red-
looking at
yeah.
we're looking at stopping it right here at Parkway Estates, is what we were contemplating, and not taking it all the way up there.
And that's the path that goes over down to the lake, right? Parking to the lake.
We can't hear you. Sorry.
Is that the path that goes down to the lake?
Up to the lake, up to Lake Hedron?
Yes.
Yes, what's shown in green
Yes.
there's an existing crossing at Parkway Estates in Interlochen, and that path goes up to the boat ramps up there at Lake Kedron.
Right.
What's your question?
So has it occurred to you that you're gonna make another pinch point there for the traffic from the high school kids, if they can take that route?
As far as crowding at
Yes.
Walt Banks and Peachtree Parkway?
Yes.
Congestion,
Yes.
traffic? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Stacy.
Nice, Steve.
And
Okay, Carriage Lane Path project. This is one of the last of the 2017 SPLOST projects. This is probably one of the more difficult ones. Little history on this one. This one needs a little explanation. We've done several concepts on this path project. We have looked at, well, the goal, let me back up. The goal is to get from the end of the path here at Robinson Road. The goal is to get a connection between here and the Peachtree East Shopping Center. That was the goal. We had looked at going all different ways. We had looked at trying to get through there from private property on Carriage Lane. We've met with with a couple different homeowners there, trying to get an easement through their property to the cemetery property. This is the Moels Cemetery. We've talked to these folks trying
Show
to
me
get
the
through.
school, David. Show.
Booth Middle,
Thanks. Yes.
right there, McIntosh High,
Thank you.
and the shopping center. We've tried to get through there, and then even through the cul-de-sac here, trying to get to the cemetery property. Those folks were adamant against that. We have looked at several options trying to come through the church property using their parking lot to get to the cemetery property, to maybe come all the way around the outskirts of their property. The cemetery was adamant against that. They didn't like that option. The only traction we could get with the cemetery folks was up along the right of way of 54, trying to get through there. There's also a power line easement right here in the way as well. We think we have gotten to a point with the cemetery that they are amenable to this, because the plans that we've done so far don't impact the graves, that sort of thing. We think we've gotten direction from GDOT where they'll allow the path to go. It can go in their right of way, but it has to be out of the clear zone. Basically, they don't want carts, which they consider vehicles, in the clear zone of the highway. So we think we've worked all that out. We've threaded the needle basically, and it goes right where the power line easement is, where the power poles are. So it's all doable. It just raises the cost of the project. So we also think we've gotten to a point with the church where we can get it in. It affects their detention pond, so we'll have to design some things there. And then we will have to get some property from the folks that own the property here at the corner of Carriage and 54. All this to say, we've gotten to a point where the next step is to basically complete the design, but we want to also coordinate this with a 2023 SPLOS project, which is grade separated crossing in this area. The goal of the 2023 SPLOS project is to try and get something to connect the schools on either side. So we're in the process of getting a feasibility study as to where the best location is to put this grade separated crossing, bridge, tunnel, catapult, whatever you want to consider. Catapult would probably be easier.
Zip line.
Yeah. So I drew this in there. You know, if you do something anywhere along here, this red line is your ADA runout slope.
I don't know what that means.
Basically, if you can imagine the bridge 19 feet above the roadway, to get down from that elevation at 5% is what ADA maximum is. You need basically the length of a football field. So when folks say just build a bridge or a tunnel, it really makes it hard to fit in an urbanized area that's already developed. So you can see the impact there of that length. You've got, cemetery, church there, and you've got all this, commercial and development over here and whatnot. So we're in the process of trying to figure out the best place for it, and in coordination with the Carriage Lane project, because you can't really do one without the other, because property acquisition is going to be needed for both. So they really need to be looked at together. So that's where we're at with that.
Don't go to the next slide.
Okay.
explain the clear zone.
The clear zone is what us engineers talk about as far as if you leave the roadway because you're, on the phone or whatever, it's the amount of distance from the road that you need to recover, basically, without hitting something that is going to cause you to come to a dead stop.
So has GDOT
Basically.
put a number on that?
Yes.
How wide is it?
Yes. I can't remember what it was in here. I think it was like 12 to 14 feet or something like that from the edge of pavement. So our engineers have threaded that needle, that the path is still in their right of way a little bit, but it's outside of the clear zone. So
Okay, now, that assumes, we all know what assuming does, sorry about that, but that assumes that there's no barrier between Highway 54 traffic and the cart path, correct?
correct.
So you would need 12 feet. What happens when you put a barrier in there based on the speed limit on the road and something that would keep the cars on the road and the golf carts on the cart path?
We had brought that question up to GDOT when we were looking at this a year or so ago, and they didn't like that idea. They didn't want a barrier there, but I've heard that some of their rules may have changed on this path issue in the right of way, so we were going to bring that back up when we get back into this and see, can we change that? Can we build a jersey barrier, or decorative jersey barrier or something, and see if we can't get out of the way of the power lines and stuff. So that we will bring that up again, because I've heard rumors that their rules have changed. So
Okay, because I've heard that there are various, I guess, types of barriers that can be constructed, and that those are somewhat dictated by the speed limit on the road. And that also brings up a question of whether or not we need to, because there's been other issues with regard to the speed along in there, and to reduce the speed, like from prior to Robinson Road all the way out to the edge of the city. Has that been kind of looked at the same time as any of this, or is that like apples and oranges?
we just recently had the speeds in there changed. I remember that was part of the last radar permit that we just did.
Because they used to be 45,
Yeah, but I think
right?
it's,
And they went up to 55? Yeah.
They just increased it,
Mhm.
I think.
yeah, but I think that that's like, once you get past Publix, I think that's where that's where the sign is, I think,
That's where the speed limit gets higher?
higher.
I think it's 55. Is that where it is? I think it's 55 past Publix.
Past the Ace Hardware.
So the question is, can we look at lowering the speed limit, is what you're saying?
The reason why I'm bringing up the speed limit is because it's my understanding, and I'm not the system expert on this one, but it's my understanding that the speed limit on Highway 54, adjacent to that cart path, dictates what type of barrier, what strength of barrier must be in place there in order to guarantee the safety of the people on the cart path, or the bicycles, or the walkers, or whatever. Because it's not just gonna be golf carts there.
It's a great
But
question.
that from an engineering standpoint, is it a regular guardrail? Is it, a curb and then something? Or, I mean, there are multiple things. And having walked that whole distance, I know there was some discussion the day we walked it, that putting a curb in there is not like a legitimate option because of drainage of water off the road. So that's out. But putting up kind of like a regular guardrail that would be substantial enough to hold a car back. But then again, like I said, the speed limit on the road becomes part of the factor of what dictates.
Does it? That's the question.
I-
Does the speed,
Yes.
at the posted speed limit at that location have an impact on what kinds of barriers, or any, could be used?
Yes, they could, you see it on 74 as well. just standard, not standard, but regular metal guardrail would work to keep a car in lane from going there. It's just the last time we brought this up, they didn't like that idea. So when we go back to designing this, we'll bring that back up with them and say, you know, what would you allow us to do if we can move this a little bit closer, you know?
Have there been any rule changes? Because that was something else that I had heard about.
That's what I heard as
Yeah,
well,
okay.
and we're going to explore that,
Okay.
because that will help us out greatly
Yeah,
if the
because
rules have changed.
I mean, having walked that whole area and knowing how much, and John can tell you, I mean, he traipsed along both sides too, but where it drops off and how much it drops off, the closer you can get that cart path to 54 without endangering anybody along that, you know, process, it's going to drastically change how much dirt has to be moved or how far you have to go in, you know, I mean, there's shrubs along the front of the cemetery that can easily be removed, put the cart path in, and then put new shrubs in. And that will be a much easier construction project than trying to put that path further in toward the cemetery, based on how much the hill drops off and how much dirt and fill would have to go in there.
Yes,
So, I
we're
mean,
definitely
having it
gonna
run
look at that.
adjacent to the highway is highly desirable, even if it means putting in, you know, because, you know, you're talking like less than a quarter of a mile of putting in like a guardrail there to keep everybody safe.
We'll definitely be looking at it, because even, you know, we'll look at the cost, if they let us do it, we'd look at the cost benefit of even doing like a decorative Jersey barrier in there, you know, something with stone on it or whatever. It may be more advantageous to do that than pay to relocate power lines. You know, it's something we'll look
Yeah,
at.
I got the feeling when I walked it that it could, everything that needs to be built could be built between where Highway 54 is and where the power line is. Because when you're actually standing there, there's a pretty decent distance there that you've got those power lines set back.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, if we can get some wiggle room from GDOT, it'd make it much easier, yes.
okay.
I had a quick question. Even though you have like 2 bridge tunnel places here with question marks by them, you're really just looking at doing one, right? This isn't.
Yes.
Okay, and this is just a matter of where we're putting it, right?
Correct.
Okay, so there's a possibility then that for us to connect these 2 schools, this crossing could be as far away as Steinmart?
It's possible.
That's where it exists now.
Correct, there's an at-grade
At-grade
crossing there
crossing.
now.
Yeah,
At
no, I know there's
Steinmart.
at grade, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, you know, if we're looking at connecting these, you know, I see the middle schoolers walking to McIntosh and crossing a highway, you know, and they're walkers, you know, the high school students, not that they would need to get to the middle school, but, you know, you're gonna have more students going from Booth to the high school. And those are gonna be like, they can't drive golf carts, so those are gonna be your walkers. I'm like, they're not gonna go as far as Steinmart to go all the way down and come back when they can cross a highway, which is obviously not safe. Anyhow, my point is I definitely would love to see it closer to the schools as much as possible.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I'll share the comment. I mean, one of the complaints that has kind of been at issue is with the mill farms, with the red wine tunnel, is that, you know, a lot of people have expressed to me, and I have looked at it, and I have 3 grandkids who, as of next year, will all be in the Rising Star or Stars Mill complex, driving golf carts, or at least one of them will. And the issue is that if somebody comes from the south side of 74 into Mill Farms and is late for school, they now are gonna have to drive all the way north to go through the tunnel to come all the way south. And it's a long distance, and we all know that high school students don't always make the best choice. And so it seems highly likely that somebody along the trail is gonna be making an illegal at-grade crossing coming out of Mill Farms, going straight across toward Mount Brook. And I'm very concerned about that,
It is very concerning, yes.
so. So the thing is, like with the floating bridges here and where they are, if we can avoid setting it up the same way, that would be a disaster from the design standpoint, let's do that. Because it's not gonna be to our advantage to expect those kids to go from Carriage Lane all the way up to Steinmart to cross. No, we have, it's like, let's look more realistic.
Understood?
All right.
Okay, next one is John.
So this is another project that was in the 2017 SPLOST. It's a connection. So this is Pascal Road. You can see the red proposed path there on the screen. If you can imagine, that's 74 on the sort of over to the right side, and the tunnel under 74 with the twist back curves coming up, and then that's Station 81, Fire Station 81 there. So this path would run in front of the fire station all the way down to connect back to Huddleston Road, basically trying to provide that path connection from the tunnel crossing back to Huddleston. The issue is that you have a railroad crossing in there, right there in the middle. So this project is currently in a sort of concept phase. We've got a contracted design firm who is researching a concept layout, and they're also reaching out to CSX Railroad to get the initial touch the base, say, okay, if we want to do a crossing here, what's the steps, what's the process with the railroad to get that approved? Those are usually long timelines and require extra fees to the railroad so they can do their engineering analysis. Our hope is that they will approve it, and it'll be similar to the crossing down on Kelly Green. There's a at-grade railroad crossing down there with a signal arm just like the road crossing. So it would be a similar setup at this location.
Right now, the tunnel up under.
Could you step to the microphone for us?
Pardon me?
Sorry, Gary, we need
To
you
the-
at the
yeah.
microphone.
It's a pain in the neck, we know it. But the people at home can't hear you if you don't step to the microphone.
Gary Mercer. Currently, the people coming out of the tunnel that want to get to Huddleston don't enjoy the nicety of going up through the avenue. They go across the railroad tracks in the traffic lane, and it's a constant thing. That's a little bit of a scary thing because I've done it,
Yes, it is.
okay? But they come out of the tunnel, they come up to the new cart path that runs up to whatever that street is that runs down toward the avenue, this secondary street.
Yeah?
Turn left, go down to Pascal, turn right, go over the railroad tracks, and on down to Huddleston on the road. And that's what's happening.
Oh, yep, yep.
We've seen them cross.
And it's kind of like we were talking a minute ago about out at Publix. Right now, people are crossing
Yeah.
every time the light changes in golf carts from CVS over to Steinmart, okay? And that's as you get more congestion around there, and Lord help you if you're there at when McIntosh gets out.
Yeah.
But anyway, those just some ideas
That's
and
right.
what's going on currently from a golf cart driver.
Thank you.
And so this project will tie into the next one, and I'll let Dave talk about it.
Okay. Next project is a multifaceted project. It's sewer, path, and drainage. Basically, the first part of the project would be to extend sewer down Huddleston. Here's 54 up here, the railroad tracks, and then Huddleston Road. Right there, nope, right down here is where we were talking about tying in with the previous project from Pascal. WASA is looking at extending sewer down this whole road so that all these parcels in blue will then have access to sewer. The existing sewer is showing up in green and the dots. Right now, we just have a force main that goes down Huddleston. So all those parcels are on septic. The other part of this project, like John alluded to, is a path project, the 2017 SPLOST project for a path to extend a path all the way up Huddleston as well. And then we've got some drainage issues on Huddleston as well. If y'all have ever driven down Huddleston and Dividend during a rain event, not a lot of storm drains, roadside ditches and whatnot. We've got some flooding in some property down here that road water's contributing to. So this project will also look to address those drainage problems along the road as well.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the blue lines, the teal-colored blue lines that you have on there, those show property line divisions, correct?
Yes.
Okay, because that was not explained. It almost looks like that's where you're gonna put all the sewer pipes. And I'm looking at it going,
No.
that's a lot of spaghetti. Okay, then I realized it's the property lines, but I wanted to clarify
Yes.
that for anybody else who was looking at it thinking, those are all the sewer connector lines. No, that's just property.
Yes, thank you. Sometimes we get so used to looking
I
at these
know.
things, we don't,
I'm used to them being in red on the Q Public Net,
we think everybody can
or
read our
yellow,
mind.
sorry, yellow.
Well, you said parcels. You said the blue lines were
Yeah.
parcels. I heard it.
Okay.
Okay.
Excuse me, is that sewer line that runs across, Huddleston and goes over under the railroad track, is that a, city right of way, or is there something built over that?
The question is,
Right
a
there.
sewer
No.
line?
That's some kind of drainage or sewer line,
Yes.
is that developed land, or is that just city right of way through the railroad track?
That the sewer is on, or
Yeah.
more than likely they're on easements. They're on, the sewer lines are on easements that,
Okay, they
that
are
this,
on
that the sewer authority, yes. Mhm. And this curve right here that you see, that is also railroad right of way. It was a spur through there, but they have abandoned the part that's in our right of way. That's ours. So this one is in its infancy right now. We have to RFP for a design consultant at this point. So that's gonna be the first step in a series of long steps for this one, because this is gonna be a big project. It's gonna be funded out of several different pots. The stormwater stuff will come from our stormwater fund. WASA will be paying for anything dealing with the sewer line. And then we've got SPLOST and impact fees for our road and path portions. So this will be an interesting one.
Before we go on, I didn't know what you were gonna put up next. Are we in touch with the property owners? I mean, are we keeping them informed? I assume you have a list of all those various property owners. At some point, we start reaching out to them to let them know what's coming.
To my knowledge, we have not done that yet. I don't know if WASA has done anything, but we're
Yeah,
still.
there will be a process there once we get a little bit further down the road, since we're still, kind of in that conceptual aspect of figuring out what we want to do over there. The other part of it is important to note, Dave was talking about some of the stormwater over there. Depending on how we go with stormwater, there might be a possibility that the city may need to acquire some land. So the initial thought is we're going to need to do curb and gutter over there to contain the stormwater. So when you curb and gutter, then water needs to be channeled into a certain location in order to get it to where it needs to go for a conveyance perspective. So depending on where that actually ends up, there may be some incurrence on private property for water that we may need to take a look at.
Thank you.
And this ties into our next project, Huddleston Road and 54 intersection project. This is where we want to do some dual lefts on Huddleston to help that back up. You can see we did a drone a few years ago, and during
Yeah.
certain times of the day, it backs up quite a bit. So the idea was to do dual lefts off of Huddleston. We've completed that design. We've gotten a signal permit from GDOT the catch with that is that in order to get the timing to work out and get GDOT approval to make this work, we had to eliminate a phase. Basically, what that means is that if we do this, there won't be any cross traffic going from Huddleston to Best Buy and vice versa. Those movements will be eliminated. So that time can be shifted around to other phases of the signal. We met with the owner of the shopping center yesterday or Monday, which
That was
is
yesterday.
It kind of blur in.
After,
It's a
after
long
she
week.
beat up John for a couple hours and we got him bandaged up, they were very understanding of the project and they were all for it.
Good.
Basically,
Wow.
they felt that it wouldn't impact their business because we pulled the traffic numbers and I think during the whole 24-hour period, 13 people crossed.
Oh, my goodness.
So
Wow.
it was not a major movement, and that was sucking up a lot of time. Not a lot of time, but it's taking up time in the cycle
Yeah.
that can be distributed to other phases. So they were understanding and had no objections to it. The timeline, basically, we want to put this thing out to bid this month is what we'd like to do, an award, and get the construction done during the summer. GDOT has expressed to us that they would like it done sooner rather than later, because when they come in, we'll talk about this a little bit later in the presentation, when they do the DLT and all that other stuff, they would like to see this done before that so that when they get done with the DLT, they can retime the corridor. So basically they told us sooner than later. So
Wow.
Dave, how long do you anticipate this project would take? Because you're saying summer construction. I don't know whether that means like start in May and be done by September or longer than that, or,
we were projecting to be done by August. That's our goal. Okay. Next project, Peachtree Parkway and Crosstown Roundabout. We've been talking about this since 2003. before I got here, this was a intersection project. So we have beaten this horse, I think. So we've completed several concepts and traffic studies here. Basically, we want to, the goal, well, we were directed to finish the 60% design and bring it back to council for approval to move forward with 100%. We're planning on finishing that design and bringing it back to council in April is what the plan is. We want to finish looking at option of having slip lanes in all four corners, basically where you can turn right at every corner and not have to basically get in the roundabout itself. That helps folks that want to, like, say you're going north on the Parkway and you want to go west on Crosstown, that having those slip lanes eliminates you having to fight each other basically in the roundabout.
Show that to me one more time. North on the Parkway. Start there. North on the Parkway.
So if you're heading north on the Parkway
Go
and
on.
you want to go to Johnny's Pizza,
Yep.
with the slip lanes, that helps you because you can go around the roundabout and head west on Crosstown and not have to fight another vehicle trying to get into the roundabout that also wants to head west.
Because they have the slip lane.
They have the slip lane,
Yeah.
yes. So that,
Okay.
we're finishing up the 60% design on that and looking to bring that to council in April.
Now, in order for that to work, right now, there's 2 lanes going north. Actually, there's 3 when you get to the intersection because you've got the turn lanes. But the east-west traffic on Crosstown is really 1 lane in each direction at the intersection, other than like the slip lane going around. Is that gonna be the same thing, or is it gonna be, or are you gonna have 2 lanes actually going into the roundabout? Because I've seen double lane roundabouts, where as you approach, it makes you get into the proper lane. If you're gonna make a left-hand turn, you must be in the left-hand lane. If you're gonna go straight through, you have to be in the center lane. If you're gonna make the right-hand turn, you have to be in the right-hand lane. There is no changing of lanes. Once you get to the roundabout, you go in and it shuffles you right out, and the lines, you just stay in your line, and it, there's,
Trilith
yeah,
has
there's
that,
like no way you're gonna hit anybody. Nobody's gonna hit you.
because you stay in your
Because you
space.
stay in your lane, you stay in your space, and it works beautifully. And I will say that there's a lot of people who have, you know, like serious meltdowns when they go through it the first time, but they can be trained.
But beyond that,
Yeah, beyond that, I think that it works really well. I saw it down, you know, in Venice, Florida. They had a huge circle with like 3 lanes going in from every direction, and everybody just, you know, if you're in the right lane as you get there, you end up on the correct side
where
on the
you're
other
going.
side of the circle.
And I
So-
think what you're saying too is kind of what they built on 85 just south of Fayetteville. There's those 2 roundabouts right in a row. I think that's the design that you're talking about there. We're trying to keep it simple, and then
Yeah.
the beauty of this design is that if in the future you do need to make it 2, you can come in and rip out those medians, basically do some restriping and a little bit of paving, and then you'll have a 2-lane roundabout. So it can be designed for the future as well to do what you're
Right.
talking about. So just a little.
Initially, do you know, is it gonna be like the roundabout that they just put in over on Red Wine and the Parkway,
I actually haven't seen that
or
one.
not?
I drove it this
Very similar?
afternoon. It
Yeah,
seems to
okay.
be, no, it's not, because it's single. That one is
Yeah.
single.
That's a single one, yeah.
Yeah, this
And
one
it-
just has like
it
long
kind-
merge lanes
Mhm.
that are,
Yeah, it keeps
they
that.
have like a nice long way
yeah.
to go before they're actually like merging in with that traffic.
And I think the key is that if you truly want to get into the roundabout, you're not in contention with other, or a lot of other vehicles in that roundabout
Right.
for people that are just simply trying to make a right-hand turn. On those double roundabouts, you might have 2
Yeah.
cars in that circle at the same time,
Right,
and then that's where the bizarre part comes in, where you have to pay attention to stay inside your lane. But in this case, those slip lanes making those right-hand turns just allow that free-flowing traffic, where cars that really need to go around and go to the 3rd or 4th exit of that are in that circle, that inner circle by themselves for the most part.
so essentially, the slip lane would provide the same kind of a thing if you're going westbound on Crosstown, when you hit 74, that right-hand turn lane, it's a dedicated lane, it puts you into a lane, it doesn't matter if, what the light is doing, and so many people stop and get
Yeah.
honked at there.
No lights, hopefully, but yeah,
But
I mean,
if
it's just
you
free-flowing
just go
traffic.
and flow
Yeah.
through,
Yeah,
it's a continuous flow of
yeah.
traffic.
The only time that it would not be free-flowing is if you needed to take the 3rd or the 4th exit at the roundabout, then you actually have to get into the roundabout. If you're just making right-hand
Right.
turns, you never have to get into the roundabout.
Correct, okay.
Anything else, council? As far as I'm concerned, it can't come soon enough. We've been dancing around for 20 years.
Yeah, I like it. I think that it's very user friendly. Even if you don't know about the slip lane and you get into the circle, you can still exit where you need to and you have the lane, and I'm like, that
No.
makes a lot of sense.
Anything
I
else?
do have one other question, because I know it came up before, and I don't recall exactly how it was resolved or discussed, but there was some discussion about this particular intersection and the size of the traffic circle cutting into the trees, the area around on each of the 4 corners, and there was some issues with regard to utilities and stuff. Can you just kind of like address the utilities, the trees, and how far back is this gonna take it from where it is right now?
Yes. This ties in with some of the visits that we've had with the stakeholders around the intersection.
Say that again, you've met with the property owners in the area?
Yes, the only folks we haven't met with are the owners of the bank on the northwest corner. John has made several attempts to try and get with someone there, but sometimes that's very difficult with corporate things. We have not met with the folks at the southeast corner. They do not have an HOA, so they really didn't have.
I was thinking that Bernie
Glen
did
Clearing.
last summer, Dave. Do you remember that, Bernie McMillan?
Yes, Bernie and I met with the folks in Brookside. We met with them. They have an HOA. We talked with them at length. They are warm and fuzzy with the idea of a roundabout. Their issue came in with the trees, and we had discussed with them, and we met with them. There would still be. We would need to cut into the hillside there for utilities and to get in the roundabout pavement and everything. There would be a 50-foot piece of green belt still left to buffer them, but we told them specifically that we had no problem with doing some landscape design, trying to replant trees or look at possibly building some type of decorative wall. I know ISE has done that before on some of their other roundabout designs that people have been happy with, so
Dave,
they were happy with
do you
that.
remember, did they express a problem with visibility issues or noise issues or light issues from the cars in the roundabout or everything?
That pretty much goes into the whole thing.
Okay.
They wanted as much buffer left as they could, and then to replant what we could. And then we said we would definitely look into that, to do a landscape plan and have them look at it. And,
Now, the issue with the bank, of course, in most cases with corporations like banks, the person you really need to talk to is in some regional centralized location and,
Maryland?
yeah,
Yeah, they're in Maryland, I think.
probably. So, if you don't end up talking to them, is there gonna be a problem?
we are going to need property from the bank. At some point, we will, at a certain point in the process, we will send them a letter from staff. We'll find out who to send a letter to, and then, if we don't hear anything back, then we may need to get legal involved at that point. So,
There's a process.
Yeah. Sorry. Now, the size of this roundabout looks a lot smaller than the one that's over on Red Wine and the Parkway. What's the dimension of this, like, from one traffic lane to the opposite traffic lane on the other side of the circle? Do you have any idea on that from the drawing?
yeah, I'd have to pull those plans. I do not remember what that dimension is.
But it looks to me like it's, drawings are so deceptive, you can't tell. But it looks like it's a much smaller circle than what the new one is out by the one church. So, and that one really flows well because there is enough distance between where the cars come in from one street to the next that you're not like right on top of each other as you're going into the circle. But,
We can definitely have those comparisons when
okay.
we bring it back
Okay.
in April, what the size is similarly, and we'll have an updated traffic study to
Okay.
show you as well. And then
What's in the middle of the circle?
a statue of me.
I love it. I was gonna nominate you. All right,
We could put a chicken coop there.
There you go.
a splash pad.
Let's all get our
I'm just
priorities out here on the table.
We also, John also reached out to, is it Arborteris? I can
Arborteris.
never, the name has changed and I keep forgetting. Their major concern was obviously the safety of their residents coming in and out. Right now, if you recall being out there, traffic backs up way past their entrance.
All the way to Kroger.
They can't make a left turn out of there during that time. And if they could, it's really not safe. So what we're looking at doing here is the same thing as over on the bank side. We really want to make that a right in, right out. So that's what we're going to be proposing to them in the design. And then also one other thing, the subdivision to the south, Village Park, we met with them also. They don't like the roundabout idea.
They don't like roundabouts.
They don't like roundabouts, and really, I think the issue with them was, you know, increasing the level of service and getting people flowing south on the Parkway towards their entrance better. It would limit their ability to get out. So we said we agreed with that and said basically we need to make that an R cut there, where they can't turn left out as well, because I can definitely see an issue with increased ability of people to flow through that intersection quicker. It'd be harder for them to turn left. So they said, that sounds like a great idea. We'll turn right, U-turn at the next intersection and go north if they have to go north. So,
And then they
They were on
can, if
board.
someone's coming northbound on Peachtree Parkway, they can still turn left into the
yes,
village?
yes. So they were on board with that.
And for the people in Arbor Terrace, they would have to go south on the Parkway, do a U-turn, go through the roundabout, and then go west
West.
on Crosstown?
They could really just turn right and then whoop.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's true, that's true. They would just go to the
Yeah.
roundabout. That would
I
make
like
sense.
this way better.
I mean, if they just want to see more Peachtree City, they could.
They'd see the Fountain of
So.
Dave.
Yeah, Fountain of Dave. There we go.
Are they gonna be able to do that is the question. Because,
Yeah.
We'll do a workshop on that.
Yeah, it's just a safer
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
of getting them.
No, that makes sense.
and
Okay.
getting them out of that complex.
Okay.
oh, I've seen people sit there for a while when the
Yeah.
traffic is bad.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Good, good, good. Questions or concerns on that? Moving forward.
No, we're good now.
Restroom break?
Yeah. We'll take
We're in and
a, I
out.
know what's coming up, right?
Yeah.
Seriously,
Nice
I
try.
guess
Yeah, if
we
you want.
could- Yeah, could we take
we'll
a
10-minute.
Of course.
Little break?
5-minute break?
5 minutes.
5-minute break?
5 minutes.
Mhm.
There we go.
John,
We'll have some
John,
discussion.
keep an eye on him.
Okay. 5474 DLT. Don't shoot the messenger on this one. Basically, what I'd like to do on this one is just do a quick overview, and then we can go to the paper map here. We printed out the actual lane marking drawings that the contractor has, and we can try to explain how this intersection is going to work, I think. And then after that, I also have a video that GDOT did, kind of doing a simulated drive on this. So basically, we are at the point where they have awarded a contract to a contractor on this DLT. Reached out to GDOT, hadn't been able to get in touch with someone that can give me a better time frame as to when they're actually going to get started. But as soon as I hear, I'll let the city manager know so that we can get that information out. But yeah, I've been dying trying to find out when they're going to get started. We did get invited to the pre-construction meeting, John and I. So when that happens, we will be part of that process as well, and be able to get information out as much as anybody wants to hear. So this is about an $18 million project for GDOT. I do not know how they got the extra money for this, because it was budgeted at like 13. So they've really come to the table with this. As part of this project, it was also a SPLOST project of our own, where we upgraded the signage for the overhead signs. We had gotten this approved several months ago, but instead of just galvanized metal poles sticking out of the ground, we'll actually have something that looks decorative, and we'll have downcast lighting at night with these signs and whatnot. So this will be really nice. Also, one thing before we get up and look at the drawings, there had been some questions about construction phasing and how they were going to do this without, destroying the world. Basically, there's 7 stages to the maintenance of traffic plan, how they're going to keep traffic moving throughout the entirety of this construction process. We won't go through all of it in detail unless y'all really want to, but basically the Reader's Digest version is they're going to keep 2 lanes open in every direction at all times during the project. So they're not going to come in and just narrow it down to just 1 lane, during the day or whatever. They know this is a heavily traveled road, and they're gonna do whatever they can to try and keep the traffic moving. So if we come to the table, and
Would it make sense to just go ahead and into the video? Do you have it handy or
We can.
next or something?
do you want to draw that?
Hold on one second.
So before we get started with the video, the important thing to remember with this, and it's not intuitive, but what makes the DLT work is that, for example, if you're heading north on 74, headed towards Tyrone, the left turns heading towards Coweta and the straight movement heading north move at the same time. That's like mind-blowing. you know. It's
Through
like,
through the intersection.
through the intersection, yes. So instead of having what you normally see
Eight seconds.
today, you have a left turn moving towards Coweta, and you have the southbound movement left heading towards Fayetteville. You have those two going at the same time. Sometimes they lead and lag, whatever, you know, to get a few more seconds, but you have that movement, and then that stops. And then the straights go. That's two movements there that are now happening at the same time with the DLT. So that's how you get these extra seconds that you can have to move around and get better traffic. So go ahead. Sorry. The avenues. Okay, thank you. So the avenues.
Use that microphone.
The avenues is right here. There's West Park, Longhorn. So this is heading south, and you're wanting to turn left towards Fayetteville. You have this advanced signal right here.
There's a signal there?
Yes, there's a signal right there.
Okay.
And this is how you get the people wanting to turn left to go towards Fayetteville are going to be stacking here behind this signal. So they'll have this red light.
So the
Here.
straights are going right now, both directions?
Yes, the straights are going, and then they will stop. And then it will allow these vehicles to then go to cross traffic. Not working.
Oh, it all queues up to prepare to turn left while Highway 54 is moving.
And then these folks are turning left, and you don't see it on the other screen, but the southbound straights are going at the same time.
Can the northbound straights go at the same time of what we just saw? Can the northbound
Yes.
straights and lefts go at the same time the southbound straights and lefts
Yes.
are going? So
Yes.
that's the reduction in the number of phases.
Yes,
Got it.
it's really kind of cool.
That is cool.
Once they enter that left turn lane, will it be fluid like that, that as soon as they cross over that traffic, they'll be able then to continue on to make that left-hand turn? There's not gonna be another point where they have to stop and wait for other traffic that's going?
Good question.
Yeah.
Question. Let me look at the.
Because
So that was really nice that it just like got in that lane and just kept going,
My turn to
turn
go.
left, yeah.
I have to look where the signal poles and stuff are.
Right.
There is a possibility, yes, that they would have to stop there as well before they turn left.
Okay,
So
so they're kind of queued up twice then possibly
Exactly.
to make that left-hand turn?
Exactly.
yes, they could queue up twice.
Okay.
Interesting.
now, is that a longer wait than the left-hand turn lanes are currently in peak traffic, having to sit through two lights, or not?
I do not know the signal timing or phasing, but we can.
I mean, on the north, I usually end up going northbound on 74 and making the left-hand turn onto 54 West. So, and I know in that particular situation, it's not unusual to sit through three rotations of the light before you even get to the light, no less get through the light. And that's been one of the bigger complaints, obviously. Is there any idea how many times, how many cars? Yeah,
I get
it's
it.
like 15 questions. But, okay, you're gonna have a very long lane of traffic on 74, going north or southbound, that's gonna get in that left-hand lane, and they're gonna They're gonna get in the queue.
Queue up.
They're gonna be sitting at that light until there's a break in the traffic and they can cross the other lanes and go up into the other,
When the light lets them.
advanced-
They have a light at that
Yeah,
spot.
there'll be a light there as
right.
well.
So they're gonna cross those lanes and move up and possibly have to stop.
Yes.
Okay, maybe they'll flow through.
See
Right.
that guy
Yes,
right
the
there?
yellow truck.
Yellow
Yeah.
truck is sitting at a stoplight. And
Correct.
when that light says go, they
Right.
go over here, way over here.
And may end up queuing up in that area too.
Which is what Laura just asked, yeah.
Right, so
Yes.
that means 2 rotations of the light potentially to get through.
Yes, they could potentially have to sit through 2 red lights before they can turn left, and I do not know what that
Timing.
time is. I can
Yeah.
look
We don't wanna have to put,
into that.
we don't wanna have to put more do not block the box where you cross.
But there will be a dedicated right-hand lane for every direction of traffic, correct? That will be a continuous flow, or no?
Right hand, you said? Right hand?
No,
As you approach,
not in every case. We were looking at that earlier. Coming off of 54, heading towards Fayetteville, if you want to turn right and head south towards Sonoya, they do have a light there as well before you merge back into 74 south traffic. And the reason we think that is because there just wasn't enough room to have a merge lane.
So it's what we call more normal traditional left turn lane.
no, right turn lane.
Yes.
It was my understanding that like the merge lane by Longhorn would be extended. Is that still the case? To help that merge better right there?
Yes. They're actually going to have 2 lanes, which was a
Okay.
surprise to me. They're going to have 2 right turn lanes, and both of those will have a red light or a signal there as well to keep them
From
From-
blocking the box.
blocking the box.
And no
Yes.
right turn on red.
Yes.
I'll take a question. Go ahead, take the microphone quick.
Ed Wortman again from St. Simon's Cove. Have they addressed the grading issues there? Because if you're going south on 74, if you're going north on 74, and if you're going west on 54, they're all uphills at the red light, and that's why the vehicles can't get through. When they're three abreast semi-trailers, the semi-trailer doesn't get through the red light because it's going uphill at all of those grades.
Thank you.
I'll be honest, I hadn't looked at the grading plan to see what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah, good question.
Yeah, that, just a simulation.
I do want to mention, I was not on council in 2020 when GDOT came to Peachtree City, and so that kind of predates me being mayor. But they held public workshops. They brought in 158 people showed up one night, as far as I read from the GDOT notes. And they took a lot of input, and that dedicated right turn on 74 southbound to turn right, they changed that to dual lanes and dedicated light, dedicated signal, and no right turn based on citizen input when they came in and had these workshops.
Yes.
So they did come in. They also came into a council meeting. I was reading up on all this in January of 2020. So some of these changes, or some of these additions, were based on citizen input.
And it wasn't me.
Okay.
So even though it shows
Oh.
one lane, there's
That
gonna be
shows
two.
there's 2 lanes.
Oh, that looks like two
2
left turn
lanes,
lanes over
yeah.
there.
Yes, 2 left turn lanes heading towards
Southbound.
Coweta, and then coming the other way, south on 74, there's only 1 lane going towards Fayetteville.
Oh, that's interesting.
So in this, it said there you'll have 2 right turn lanes, but it didn't show it there, right? Because you're heading south
What was it?
on 74, and from what I just saw, you said there would be 2 right turn lanes, but I just saw 1.
It's 2 heading north on 74.
That was
heading-
northbound right there? Okay.
Oh, no,
Okay.
let's talk about going southbound on 74. You want to turn right to go to Coweta?
No,
Is
to
that what
turn
you're saying?
right-
There's
To
two
turn
lanes?
right to go to Coweta, yes, there's 2 right turn lanes going that
Okay,
way.
but that's not what we just saw. We just saw northbound.
Yes,
That's
that,
what
that
we
last
saw.
clip
Yeah,
was
that's right.
northbound.
Yeah, last
That's
one was
right.
northbound, yes.
But it has 2 left-hand turn lanes going.
Heading west.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
Just one went right. Okay.
And I think the key there is that it's actually signaled when they're making that right-hand turn to go to Coweta, those 2 lanes, so there's a dedicated red light there. It's not like, hey, come on in, and everybody jams up and blocks. It's no right on red.
Yeah.
That should help a
That's-
great deal,
yeah, that's
yes. And then I've got some vacation videos of mine if you want to watch.
Your cats?
Yeah, my cats.
Any other questions on this one?
I'm good.
No.
I'm
Oh,
good.
we had a printout of the
It's like 36
the
minutes.
the fancy
25 minutes.
sign if anybody wanted to look at those.
Got it. Nice. Nice.
No, I thought the black sign had been replaced with something else.
No,
Was it?
I had some design issues with that, but, no, that's what we ended up with. Two of
But
those,
it's-
2 of those
So that's got
upgrades.
like a hole in it that's backlit? Or is it
Can you describe the
Yeah.
lighting for us on that again?
on the signs?
This might predate you, John.
It does.
Yes, it does. There will be, these signs will be illuminated.
Can you come around and, sorry, swing around this way?
These will be illuminated and we'll have some downlighting there as well.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Well, okay. Define illuminated. They'll be backlit with holes in it that show the Peachtree City emblem on like black metal frame, or is it?
Yes,
I
and
forget
then we'll
because
have,
I watched that video. You know, I was here when they talked about it, but
we have the renderings that show that specifically, the nighttime
Okay.
view. I can forward that.
okay.
That'd be nice. Yeah. Anything else on 5474?
Dave, can you just touch really quick on what their estimated timeline is on this project from start to finish?
I have heard 24 to 30 months. So it's going to take a while.
And they want Huddleston done first before this starts, which you said may not be done till the end of summer.
They want it done as soon as possible so that by the time I guess technically we have 2 years to get Huddleston done, but we don't want to wait that long.
Well,
We
you
wanna
wouldn't
get
want construction at both of those intersections at the same time. That would be a bloody disaster.
Right,
But
right.
that 24 to 30 months, the clock started ticking when they awarded the contract in December. Is that correct?
That's what I'm trying to figure out with GDOT is, you know,
Okay.
what is the time frame?
What's next up? Do you have a different topic next up? Because if we're done talking 5474, I have a couple things that I want to go over.
Okay. We have a couple more. We'll try to be quick on this.
Do you want to talk your points, Mayor, before we move
I
on to the
do.
next
Yeah,
topic?
before we change topics.
Okay.
So, this is all fine and good. This is coming in, the contract is awarded, and the construction is soon gonna be underway, starting with utility relocation. But this won't be the end-all be-all. I think all of us still wonder, with all those traffic lights on Highway 54 West, what's really gonna happen over there, and what can we do during or after this to optimize traffic flow? First of all, when this project is installed, the displaced left turn, then in conjunction with this project, GDOT will come in and re-signalize the entire corridor. So hoping we see some signal optimization then. But beyond that, we need to identify that there is a need for some additional steps forward on 2 fronts. One is Highway 54. What else are we gonna need to do? There's real estate for another lane westbound. There is opportunity to look at reducing curb cuts or, I don't know. probably what we would be wise to do is commission a study of the 54 West Corridor and decide what our next steps should be. A lot of times, studies like that, the money, they're expensive and the money can come from the ARC. Sometimes the ARC has an 80-20, so we would be responsible for 20% of the cost of a study. It's possible, actually, it's very much recommended that we collaborate with Coweta County and Fayette County. And Bob and I have stayed in close touch with Coweta County Commissioner, with Fayette County Commissioners, and with our County Commission Chair and County Engineer, so that we can talk about maybe collaborating and maybe split the cost of a 20% match, if that's what we want to do. And then that way, the advantage, if you have a collaboration, means that any improvements we decide to make don't end at city limits. It means that this is a regional project and we intend to work together. So I guess what I want to get a feel from you both is, would you be interested in furthering the conversation to see what has to happen next? Because I don't think this is the end-all be-all, and actually neither does GDOT. And then the second half, before you say anything, we can go to the ARC for what's called like the preliminary engineering stage. When you kind of know the area you're talking about, you might have some ideas about where you're headed. You can go into something, instead of just doing a broad study, you can do something called a scoping phase that's a little more, one more layer detailed, and it may include utilities, it may include more details on right-of-way. So we could request funds from the ARC in collaboration with our neighbors, and hope that we can get the ARC to fund it and consider where we might get the money for a 20% match. Did I say anything wrong about that?
No.
What are your thoughts on
I mean,
continuing the conversation?
Yeah, I think those are interesting ideas. When you say curb cuts, is that like where you're cutting into that curb more to extend like a turn lane, things like that?
So,
Because I know there's places over there where when you're turning left, like that gets backed up, and those could be extended because it's just, there's median there that I feel like could be used. Things
Agreed.
like that. Is that, but what, so what do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. There is real estate over there. The continuous green tee threw a little bit of a monkey wrench into the extra lane real estate that exists in the middle, but it does exist.
Yeah.
And we can have conversations about what further changes we need to make over there to optimize flow.
I think any conversation that we could possibly have to make things better over there is worth having.
Suzanne?
I think a lot of what's going on over there is because of what's going on west of our county line.
Yep.
I think Coweta County has been extremely one-sided in regard to what they're putting in, with absolutely no regard for Peachtree City. I don't think they're being fair. I think they're allowing the developers to have carte blanche to put in all kinds of stuff, and they're not considering the very real traffic studies that need to be done. And my personal thing is, they've not been working really well with us. I'm not really inclined to kind of roll over and play dead for them.
I don't think it's rolling
So-
over and playing dead.
No,
It's coming to a table and having a conversation. Doesn't mean anything definitely has to come from it. It just means you talk.
I know, but they're putting in massive numbers of housing, and they don't even want to entertain, as far as I understand, the idea of continuing Fisher Road all the way up to the interstate, so that they can funnel their own traffic within their own county for the developments that they're putting in onto the highway to get them up to Atlanta. And I think that that's a very real conversation, that if we're gonna talk to Coweta County about it, I think that's something they need to bring to the table. You know, it's like God helps those who help themselves. They need to come up with a plan to funnel some of their traffic that doesn't involve coming through Peachtree City.
I think that's very compelling, and I think the commissioner has shown Bob and I a complete willingness to meet, even at the drop of a hat, and any conversations are fair game. But I think there is that issue, and the issue of Coweta traffic heading north to get on 85. There is another issue of the Coweta traffic that will always continue to come through the heart of our
Oh,
city. And I'd like to move a conversation forward together that might result in funding for a study.
I mean, those are a lot of people coming into our city to work for us. And that's, I mean, I think that's worth having a conversation for. I mean, I understand what you're saying too, but just because relationships have not been great in the past doesn't mean we can't make them better, is my view. And I mean, by all means, bring that up, because I think that's fair. It's definitely a fair point.
I'd be willing to talk, willing to entertain the whole thing. I'm quite honestly not willing to open up TDK Boulevard for their massive influx of traffic that they would like to funnel right through the heart of Peachtree City.
That's the next conversation.
Yeah.
So let's finish this one. Would you be agreeable? You know, what I think I'm hearing is, let's have a conversation. We will not be done when the displaced left turn is done.
Oh, no,
We will still-
it's not gonna fix the whole problem.
Exactly.
We already know that.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is, as a city council, are we interested in continuing a conversation that focuses on what can be done or looked at or counted or curb cut or widened on 54 West, even once this project is complete?
More than willing to have a conversation.
Yeah, I think any studies and stuff that we can do. I've had a conversation recently, and it was to the point that if you can get several counties on board for a project, that it kind of goes higher on the DOT list.
And I do understand that, and I think the simple fact that quite some time ago, Highway 54 was identified as a commercial corridor, and it should be maintained as a commercial corridor and have less residential development right on 54. Now, off of 54, back and hidden, and fine, but, like, right now Fayetteville has a whole project that they're looking at putting a massive amount of housing right on 54 by Ginger Cake.
That got shot down.
I know,
Yeah.
but they were still looking at it. I mean, it's, things like that are being proposed, and yet that would be a further difficulty in terms of the traffic with the
Yeah.
residential
Yeah.
right on 54,
I
when
think-
that's supposed to be the commercial corridor.
I think all that is bolstering the case for a study once we
Right.
get displaced left turn. Are we in agreement on that?
Yeah,
I would
I'm
agree.
okay for
All
that.
right, and the second half of the equation in my mind is, like you said, we only have one east-west corridor,
Yeah.
and it's Highway 54. Years ago, there was a proposal, more than 20 years ago now, there was a proposal that TDK would be that east-west corridor between Coweta County and Fayette County. That got shot down. I don't even disagree with that decision, but the interesting point is that if you're gonna shoot a project down, you really need to have an alternative. You really need to have a better plan. And for the last 20 years, here we are with no better plans. And the past, we haven't seen any proposals for alternative east-west corridors. We haven't even seen the relationships built that could result in the ideas that result in another east-west corridor. I haven't seen any proposals, nothing realistic whatsoever in the last 20 years. So now this is ours. Now this is ours to solve. And we did see, in August of 2020, GDOT they called it a traffic reliever study, Highway 54, GDOT SR 54 reliever study, August of 2020. And I think that it predates, because it predates me as mayor, it predates all of our council members, it predates Bob. It's the most recent study I know of, Dave, unless you have something else that I don't know about.
That's
It was very involved, engineering technical-ese. And I would like to see us, since that's the latest that we had, get it out, dust it off, see what it said, and start another conversation about alternative east-west corridors. It's up to us now. We don't get to complain about decisions that were made 20 years ago. We have to decide a way forward. And I think that a good start would be to get out the most recent study and see what we can make of it. It calls for a very critical analysis, and if we need to, get a consultant in, I would suggest that we do that so that we understand what we have. And I don't, I can't direct Bob to do it. I think this is something council needs to decide. Do you want to dust off the most recent study, August of 2020? I can share it with you. I've seen it. I've read it. I don't know what to make of it. I'm an engineer myself, but I am not a traffic and transportation engineer.
I think we should have all 5 council members present to make that kind of a decision.
Well, I wish we had. I wish
So
we
do I,
had.
but unfortunately, it's just us.
And yes, it is.
But that doesn't mean it has to be done today, because it's been delayed 20 years. I guess it can wait another meeting.
We're a quorum.
I understand that.
I mean, I don't mind looking at it. I don't think I'm in a position right now that I can say, I don't have a solution, but I definitely want more information and look at what that study is and see.
Yeah, I would like to
But-
read the study before I make a decision about a new study.
They
So-
are different topics. I think there are 2 different aspects to the traffic situation on 54. One would be, let's move forward on a study of Highway 54, the details and nuances. The second half would be, are there alternative east-west corridors to be found in the future? That's the second half of the equation.
And that's what that old study is that alternative route?
Yeah, it's August 2020, yeah.
And
they
what-
did it-
Do you know what it said in that? What is-
No, I'm not going to tell you what the conclusions were.
Okay.
It's super technical. I'll share it. It was very public, so.
Okay.
Let's get that out and dust it off and take a look, and we can have that conversation another time.
I have,
Before we direct staff to spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah,
You wanna
I have-
wait then?
I have no appetite for opening up TD Cable, None.
Nobody
Zero.
has suggested opening TDK Boulevard.
because the one report I saw was that it would funnel, if they do the development in Coweta County, you're talking about 10,000 cars a day
I don't think
coming
we
right
have,
through the heart of Peachtree City.
I don't think we have that
Heston
suggestion on the
Elementary
table
School.
anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's the
Um,
fear. I think that's the
Yeah.
what, the possible pressure that we might feel. And it's good to hear to say that you don't want it and that we don't want it. But if there's a problem and a possibility of us finding something that could be a solution, hopefully that does not.
Well, something
open
that would have helped our 54 traffic would have been doing the overpass underpass at 7454 and having a continuous flow of 54 traffic.
And that's a whole nother conversation, and those decisions are made. So, I think we agreed we will move forward with the 54 West a study. GDOT called it a scoping phase, which means a study but a little more engineering type detail. And I don't know if we can get a study like that on the tip list, Dave. No, I'm completely out of my realm. It's too
So
much
first,
stuff.
Mayor, just so I can confirm, is that what the majority of council agreed to, looking at that 54 study?
So who does
The
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 study?
54 West.
The 54
Right.
West study?
From 74 West to the county line
Correct.
and into Coweta County
And into
essentially.
Coweta.
Because it actually has to go all the way through.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the study's done by.
We'd have to look, at this
Someone
point,
we hire.
yeah, we'd have to hire a consultant most likely to look at that for us. And then
And then
obviously.
we're trying to get money from the ARC to help fund that project.
That's the idea.
The
yes,
possibility.
Yes.
In the past, it seems like there's been contingencies as far as their funding. They're like, we'll give this to you based on if you do certain things. Is that the case?
No, I don't
No.
see that at all. You want to explain how that
Yeah,
works?
can you tell me?
Yes, how the tip stuff works is that they'll have a call for projects, and all the counties get together with their municipalities and say, do you have anything that you want to try and put on the list? And I can't remember when that is. They don't always have a call for projects because sometimes they don't have the funding. So I'll get with Phil and the county engineer and see, where that stands and when we could get on a list like that.
But do we do a study and then they propose what they're willing to do?
Nope.
No?
No, we propose what we
we
would like
Propose
to
what
do.
we want and then they have to agree to it? If we want the money, they would have to agree with what we want?
We would say,
Right.
we want to
Parameters.
do a study and we would like funding to assist with that. And you get racked and stacked on a list of projects.
Okay.
Yeah, the study first, I think, obviously needs to go in and scope out the entire corridor to determine what possibilities exist there to help. So do we have too many median cuts with cars are crossing the traffic? Does that slow traffic down? Are there too many turns one way or another? That will identify obviously all the traffic lights that exist there, slowing those cars down. But the question is we can certainly request to have a study done. The comments coming back is that who's going to actually pay for that study, and then you have the outcome of the study, which would then obviously identify future projects. So as long as the three of you are I just want to see 3 heads shaking to tell me that, okay, I see no
You don't-
head shaking.
you don't want the study?
I still, you know what, I just feel like this is a terrible way to proceed with 2 of the council members not here. I realize we're a quorum, I realize we have the authority, but should we do that? And I say no. I think we have an obligation to the 2 members who happen to be sick tonight. It's not like they're on vacation, they're sick. So I think we have an obligation to let them weigh in on this, ask the questions that need to be asked. They can watch the video, they can come with the knowledge of everything that's been shared tonight and bring up all of the issues, and we can have a full 5 council decision. And I don't think proceeding without all of us being totally in agreement, it's gonna work. Anyway, it's just gonna create a division and hostility, and I don't wanna do that. I think it's better for us in the long run to be a cohesive decision-making body on this. The 7454 traffic issue is the one thing that every one of us hears the most about from absolutely every citizen in this city. There's not one person in this room who can tell me that they don't choose what time of the day they get in their car to go and run an errand, go to the store, or do what they have to do. Or like in my case, do I shop in Peachtree City or do I go to Fayetteville? Because it's actually less traffic to go to Fayetteville. So,
Okay.
I'd like to have us all weigh in.
Okay, I don't agree with it. I think we have a lot of business to take care of. I think, as you can see, our engineering department is slammed. But I will agree to that. If we want to bring it up at our next council meeting, what's reasonable? Council staff topics?
Yeah, so it would be very similar format to here. I'm just looking for some general consensus on how to prioritize that. And if that's something that the majority of council wants to do, and you tell me that in the next council meeting in a staff topic, then
Sure.
we can figure out the legwork from there.
All right.
And that gives Clint and Frank a chance to watch this video, get up to
Yeah.
speed on all of that's been presented.
That's fine. I know Clint
and,
is,
That's,
that's what, this is the topic he speaks most about,
yeah.
Sure.
is traffic. I'm sure he would want to express his opinion, but I know he definitely,
I just
would
think that they're gonna
definitely want
look like
the
we somehow, deceitfully, and it's not deceitful.
no, it's not
But I
deceitful.
think that that's how that's gonna be perceived. I think there's people, I think some of our citizens are gonna sit there and say, how can you do this?
Okay.
With-
Okay, we're in agreement then.
Okay, good.
All right. Interesting for me to look back, the previous study was done in 2014, the pond study.
Yes.
And that resulted in a list of short-term recommendations, medium-term recommendations, and long-term recommendations. And just real quick, short-term recommendations included Plantera Way intersection improvements, done. Macduff Parkway intersection improvements, those are done. Continuous green tea into the Overlook, done. Connect Macduff Shopping Center to the Overlook Shopping Center, that got done. Restrict West Park walk access from Highway 54, we did that. Actually, there was a suggestion.
What was that one?
The restrict West Park walk access from Highway 54, it's an R cut right now. We've changed it, West
Okay.
Park, Commerce Drive.
It's always been the way it is
To
since
you.
I moved here.
To you. Yeah.
Sorry.
Medium-term recommendations, Huddleston Road northbound dual left turn lane. Add a third westbound lane, to my point about a 54 study. We certainly haven't done that.
On 74, a third westbound lane?
Add a third westbound
or a
lane on
totally-
54.
okay. Yeah, I think that
Yeah,
does.
and then long-term displaced left turn or grade-separated left turn, so that's interesting. Now we're moving forward with even the long-term solutions, displaced left turn. So A lot actually has been done, but I still feel like we have a lot of work to do.
I am happy to hear that there is actually space available within the easements
It's
on
interesting, isn't
54
it?
West
It's
to
interesting.
put that third lane in, and somehow that has not been brought up as an option,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. All right, I'm done with that, thank you.
So just really quick before we move off this, this is an image of what the downlighting and
Okay.
the lighting would look like. This is the approved design.
My statue's on the other side.
We have Gary.
And we can't
Quick,
do. we
quick
can't-
question from a citizen.
Gary Mercer again. Before you leave the intersection of doom, I would like to ask council, what, if any, plans have you made for the next 36 months for the citizens of Peachtree City to get around your construction? Are there any, have you thought of that? Has engineering gone into that? There's going to be alternate routes that have to be thought about. And how do you control traffic on that? How do you help us get around town? And that's why the three of us are here, is to hear what you guys, not George Dot or any of that bunch, or Coweta County, what are you guys doing to help the Peachtree City people get around Peachtree City during this construction? And that's gonna take some thought and some time. I mean, just a thought.
Thank you. Point well taken.
I'll stay home.
All right, next up.
Can I work from home?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Can you take us back to the power? Okay, thank you. All right, let's see. Oh, yep, there it is. All right, the next easy project to talk about, McDuff Parkway and the concerns over the raised intersections and the four-way stops and whatnot. I think I wanted to go over just a little history on this project to kind of frame it a little bit. It was constructed between 2016 and 2019, so it's been a little bit. The original intent of the parkway was in the development agreement that the city had with the developer at the time to put in tunnels underneath the roadway for multi-use path access. Well, that didn't happen. The agreement was written, as if feasible, basically. So feasibility means money. So that kind of went away, and the bargain, I guess, that the city, if you want to call it that the city negotiated with the developer was to, instead of doing the tunnels, do traffic calming instead along the new parkway. Basically, the new parkway went from Franklin Ridge Drive in Centennial. That's where the new parkway started, was Franklin Ridge Drive. So from there all the way up to the railroad tracks and Sonoya Road, that was the new parkway. So we had worked with the developer and their engineers to facilitate safer access for golf carts to go from one side to the other instead of a tunnel. So what you see at some of the intersections is that traffic calming idea of the raised intersections to get folks to slow down. Because at all those intersections, you either have the path crossing like you see here, or the carts are allowed to cross the road like vehicles in the travel lanes. So that's why you see those raised intersections. And then some intersections don't have the raised intersections. They have what we call like a refuge area where the carts can stop
Halfway.
and then continue. One intersection like that is the main intersection for Centennial Boulevard. They have refuge. Franklin Ridge Drive has a refuge. So that's what we worked with the developer on. And then the stop signs were, all-way stop intersections were basically designed by the roadway folks as they went through the design process. There was it was really goofy. The developer had one engineer work on one section of the new road, and then the other developer had their own engineer. So that made it real fun for us, having to make sure they coordinated and all that stuff. Because there's two developers out there. There was Coulter and Pulte, which was John Whelan. So the stop signs came in with that engineering, and some intersections weren't always stops. The one all the way at the north end with Highlock and Red Maple, that's just a raised intersection and no always stop. Franklin Ridge Drive is the same. It's just a side street stop there. So that's kind of how we got to where we're at today. If we were to remove stop signs, engineering has never recommended doing that because it really increases the liability on the city. The driver expectations out there today are, oh, I pull up this intersection, those folks are supposed to stop too, and if you just take them up, then there's a good chance of having accidents and stuff like that. So trying to think where I wanted to go with that. So that's how we got to what you see out there today. Are there any questions on that? One other thing, to take out those raised intersections would involve quite a bit of work, having to redo drainage and grading and all that kind of stuff. So, and this would be unfunded project right now.
All right, can I hear from the neighbors? Leighton, let's hear it. What he said?
Leighton Hasselgrove, St. Simon's Cove subdivision. I use McDuff as a bypass around the IOD. And I think most people coming from the north side of Peachtree City will be using that when we get into this construction on IOD. I say leave the speed bumps in McDuff. It'll keep your traffic down, keep the speed down, but there's 9 stop signs on the McDuff. And it's ridiculous because there's very few entrances from the side streets. And people will figure out if there's not a stop sign there, they don't have to stop. But if there's stop signs on the subdivision side coming into McDuff, they'll stop, just like we do at St. Simon's Cove on Georgian Park. So I think we ought to give drivers credit. They'll figure it out where they got to stop and where they don't. But just leave the speed bumps in there. That's going to be a major corridor around the IOD during all this construction. That's just one of them that this cities need to think about. Because I can tell you, the citizens of this county are going to pin the roses on you folks when that construction starts and you haven't made arrangements for us to get around it. Thank you.
Leighton, before you go, so the concern from neighbors, in your opinion, is the sheer number of stop signs
Yes, ma'am.
on the through traffic?
Yes, ma'am.
So if we reduced, I made this up and we're not deciding anything, if we reduced it from 9 to 5, that would be a happy
It
thing.
would be a happy, but, reduce it. I think you need stop signs right there at Crestwind. That's a major subdivision with 27 homes or like that. A lot of traffic comes in and out of that section. But from there, be south to 54, there's very, very few high-density subdivisions that need access to McDuff. Take all the rest of them out.
Thank you.
Or most of them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any
Thoughts?
questions?
Yeah.
Is it really 9 stop signs? 9?
I think
I've been down that road
I
so
think
many
he knows.
times. Oh, I believe you, but I'm like, I don't remember stopping 9 times. Wow. What's that?
9 and 2.5 miles.
9 stop
Oh,
signs
right.
in 2.5 miles, yeah,
Right.
Subdivision that has a stop sign, 4 way.
every subdivision.
And Centennial doesn't have.
I wonder what the neighbors in those subdivisions would think if they no longer have McDuff traffic stopping to allow them to get out of their subdivision and make a left on McDuff.
Well, and I wonder if some of these multiple stop signs serve a community more than once. You know, like Everton, how many stop signs does Everton have? Like, is it where they have 2? So is it where, you know, instead of going to the one that's more convenient, you might have to go a little further, but you still have a way to get to a stop sign to get out of that subdivision?
Different exit.
Yeah, just a different exit. Yeah.
Is that something we can take a look at?
Well, there's also another option, and that's the reality, and, I mean, with looking at the left-hand turns on the 54 West area, one of the things is, okay, so if you can't make the left-hand turn, you have to go up further, make a U-turn, and then you make a right-hand turn into where you're trying to go.
Right.
And I mean, anybody trying to get out of any of those subdivisions onto McDuff, if there's no stop sign there, if making the right-hand turn going up and then making a U-turn becomes the next option.
We're sure doing it down by the roundabout.
You know, I mean, of course, you know how it works. You go ahead, you make your right-hand turn, and you go up to make a U-turn, and when you get back to where you started, there's no traffic there. And you go, what did I do that for?
Right now at rush hour, the traffic turning from South 74 on the McDuff Parkway over there at the Kedron exit is growing daily. I mean, there's almost a waiting line to turn right to go down McDuff Parkway.
Interesting.
That
And
might be
for-
something that we're gonna have to look at.
For the
too,
record,
then.
that was a concern about southbound 74 traffic that wants to turn right on Kedron Drive to get on
McDuff, onto
McDuff.
McDuff.
Onto McDuff, got it. Increasing volume of traffic. Thoughts, suggestions?
Oh, yeah,
Granted,
as the
granted.
construction starts, there's gonna be a lot of people going, well, I'll just cut through here.
Frankly, I don't care if they have to wait a little bit because they're going to Coweta County and they're taking
But that's why I want them to have their own entrance at Fisher Road.
I don't disagree with that. Thoughts, suggestions, ideas? What do you want to do?
So our options are nothing, complete a traffic study, design, demo, and regrade.
Take a field trip yourselves and make a decision. It's not a hard decision.
Thank you.
Out there looking at it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've
I
already
mean, I've
taken
been
that
down
field
there
trip.
plenty.
Sure, I've driven it time and time
I
again.
haven't counted the stop signs.
So Mayor, you know, some of the things we talked about of moving traffic to other corridors in the city when the construction starts at 5474, we look at the volume of cars that are actually going through there. So the volume of cars that are going through that intersection is east-west traffic. So we might see a relief of cars taking alternate paths to go down McDuff or some other areas to avoid that intersection. Yeah, and so the question is that when the construction starts, obviously that backup is going to put cars into neighborhoods or on these roads just by default because people are going to try and avoid those intersections. So the question is do we do something here to flow the traffic better, even if it's reducing some of the car volume that would go to the north end of the city on McDuff? That's not going to relieve everything that's going through the intersection, but people are going to go down that, and that's going to start backing up, and they're going to find another way. So like right across here on Willow Bend, maybe they're going to go down that way and try and avoid the intersection as well. So no matter what we do, even from an engineering perspective, we don't have another major corridor like 54, 74 that provides that east-west traffic, because that's the major issue that we have in the city is east-west. It's not so much north-south, it's east-west. There is volume going north and south, but it is primarily east and west traffic. So folks are going to try and meander through everywhere they possibly can to try and find an outlet for it. And from an engineering perspective, it's very difficult for us to design anything at this point because there's just not enough volume on those back roads to provide that, fluid traffic motion, especially with something like this where everybody's stopping every, couple hundred feet. So I think that's the general consensus, is that when we start that construction project, we're going to need to look at things like this or other areas where cars are going to notoriously go, and to not have those communities or those developments backed up with traffic, because it's just inherently going to force cars off those main roads into those side roads.
I agree completely with everything you said, and I think, just as was pointed out, I mean, obviously taking out the speed tables interferes with the storm drainage. So the speed tables do have a calming device, you know, that's a calming device. those
In most
speed tables.
cases, not all,
Yeah,
actually.
not all, well, you know, well, there are some people who choose to speed right over them. But if we took out the stop signs, or at least some of them, to aid this whole process, I mean, I've been singing this tune for quite some time now. That we need to do one or the other, either remove some of the speed tables and I understand with the drainage issues, okay, and it's not as cheap to remove the speed tables as it is to take a stop sign out of the ground and move along. I think we're gonna have to. Now, whether we take that from 9, you're saying there's 9. If we take that from 9 down to 5, maybe we need to, our own people, need to go out there and try to figure out which 5 should remain and which 4 need to.
Well, we can do that with a traffic study to determine, you know, based on the amount of ingress and egress that are coming out of those developments, and that's where the criticality of it would be. So a larger development, there may be a call for a 4-way stop sign there just to provide that in and out capability. But the challenge is right now we don't have anything I have not been given any direction whatsoever to
Right.
look at anything here to do something with this corridor. So the question is there something we want to do? And staff's recommendation is we need to analyze this to verify exactly where, if you all decide
long-
stop signs should come out or go in.
The criticality only occurs during rush hour.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the time, there's not that much traffic through there.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at,
Out of the subdivisions or going up because.
yeah, and I understand that, and I'm concerned about that criticality of that aspect, but I'm also concerned about what's going to happen when we start having conversations about removing stop signs that are currently there now from the folks that live in that area. You might hear something about that. So, you know, that's why I said we would look at that in some sort of a study to determine. You can't gauge, you know, people to some degree when they come to a council meeting and might have something to say about it, but at least we can get a good idea of the amount of cars that are going through that intersection.
Those stop signs weren't put in, the speed humps weren't put in for traffic.
I gotta have you on the microphone. We just have to be on record.
Yeah, you said earlier that the stop signs and the speed humps were put in lieu of putting tunnels in, so they weren't put in for traffic flow,
No, they were put
They
in
were
for
put in-
safety of golf carts.
for safety of golf carts.
yeah.
Then
To cross.
relook at putting extra paths on both sides of,
Oh, if that
Both-
was
both
easy,
sides of
we'd do
McDuff.
that.
Thank you, yeah.
I mean,
It's,
the idea is we gotta get more traffic flow, and if you can relieve some of the traffic flow from north to south, you're gonna relieve some of the traffic flow from east to west.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that we need to, you know, do an analysis there to determine what stop signs should actually come out.
how long does it take to do an analysis, and how much is it gonna
And
cost?
how much is it gonna
And
cost?
is it the kind of a thing where any of our staff or we can make some sort of an assessment without it? And suffer the consequences, obviously, from
Yeah.
what the mayor pointed out, which,
Well,
So I can look into it and talk to staff and get some idea on what that would take, but as long as you tell me that's what you want us to look at, we can start working on that.
I think we would be foolish not to look at it. I think, you know, with 5474 being what it is, and that it's gonna get worse, this is the next place people are gonna look. And
They're
knowing that
already-
there's 9 stop signs and possibly neighborhoods being served with multiple stop signs where, you know, we could lessen that to make traffic flow through there more smoothly.
During
And-
rush hour.
Yeah, then I think it's definitely worth a look, it's worth a study. I mean, even before I came on this council, when I was on my campaign, this was something that people would come up to me regularly and say, fix McDuff, get rid of all the stop signs.
Yep.
It was built to help alleviate traffic, and it's not an easy road to get down when you have to stop that many times. And so I would say it's worth looking at.
Traffic exiting on the Peachtree Parkway all the way down at one-way stop signs. And Peachtree Parkway is no different than McDuff.
I agree with you, Laura. Do you agree?
Mhm.
All right. So what we're authorizing is, or what we're gearing up for is, can you give us some idea of cost and time frame to do the necessary study to consider taking out some of the stop signs?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Next.
Okay. This is actually an exciting project I'm looking forward to. This is a new fire station, Station 85, be on the south end of the city. We've got our lovely recycle center right here, Wilshire Pavilion over here, and then the new gas station here, Rockaway Road and Holly Grove Road. The parcels outlined in blue here are the parcels that we had acquired from Fayette County to put in this new fire station. The old animal shelter, well, the existing animal shelter is right there. That's going to be moving over next to the Water and Sewer Authority.
Are they operational at the new place yet? Do you know?
The contractor said around February 15th is when they were hoping to, but I don't know that they've gotten all their punch list and everything else that they've needed to be done yet. So we're getting regular updates from the folks at the county on that. So no, they have not moved over yet. We've completed the property acquisition, easement acquisition. We have an easement that goes into the commercial development here to the right, and also a path easement that goes up to Mill Farms. So we've acquired that, and we've also done you could call it a prototype station layout with our architect and our fire chief. So we know the basic footprint of what we want to put there. So the next steps are going to be to do surveying, which we've initiated that right now to get topo and all that stuff, so we can give it to the architect to start working on. So we've got to do that. We've got geotech work that's got to be done for soils and all those type of things. We'll need to demo the existing building and do all of our design and all that stuff. So that is all to be forthcoming. This is a 2023 SPLOST project, budgeted at 2.5 million, and I think we've said that before, that's not enough based on current prices as of late. We're looking at probably 6-8 million possibly for that, and possible sources of funding for that would be fund balance. Any questions on this project?
Fund balance?
Reserves.
Yeah.
You know, the fire department doesn't seem to want to do those boot things, where they go
Yeah,
around.
the
and-
boots. Oh, jeez.
A lot of other communities do,
Yeah,
and a
they-
lot of them make a lot of money doing that. It's amazing.
Oh, before we go on, how do you reconcile, Bob, the prioritization of this particular fire station compared to like moving the Peachtree Parkway fire station to the east side, or a fire station on the west side, or anything else? How are you prioritizing?
Yeah, we looked at that, and this would be the next in-line fire station that we need to handle that into the city. So,
Just because of demand?
yeah. So right now, in addition to the demand that it would have and the land swap that we did with the county, it just makes sense to put it here. And if I remember correctly, this set where the quick response station is just down the street.
Yes,
from-
just like
It's a
another,
storage
another
area.
Yeah,
half
yeah,
mile
so
down
we
the
have,
road.
we would move that location to here and then staff this up to be a fully functioning fire department with fire apparatus as well as EMS.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last thing on the list is ADA issues. We have received direction from Georgia Department of Transportation that we have to file a transition plan with them related to transportation issues. We, some of the things that we need to do and file with them would be, written policies and procedures on how people with disabilities, file complaints, things like that. Our procedure for how do we upgrade our crossings and stuff like that. We need to put those procedures in writing, basically. So we're working on that right now, and we'll be bringing that to council in the near future. So that deals with the roads and paths and things like that. We have funding-wise, we have money in SPLOST for things like that. Anything related to a separate issue would be for facilities like buildings and stuff, and that would be on a case-by-case basis with upgrades to the facilities and whatnot. So, and I think, yeah, that's it. Are there any questions on any of that?
All right.
We have facilities right now that are not ADA. Is that what you're saying?
There are some older buildings, yes, that
That aren't
didn't
compliant?
have to comply at the time, but if we do major renovations, we'll have to comply.
What are some of those examples? Which buildings do we have that aren't ADA compliant? Well, I mean, besides, we need an elevator in the library and things like that, right?
They have one over there. We don't have one in this
Here,
building.
right. Okay.
We were compliant at the time that this was built because we have ADA parking in both areas of City Hall. It's just if you wanted to go from one level to another, you would either have to get in your car and go back down there or go through the library and get to the elevator and stuff like that. So, but yeah, anytime we look at major upgrades to any facilities, we have to bring those into compliance.
Yeah, absolutely. City Hall as well. Yeah, yeah.
Questions?
No, there are legal issues. We have to be ADA compliant, so, we can fuss and we can cuss, but we have to do it.
Yes, and we have to do the plan with GDOT because of course everything's always tied to federal grant funding. So if you want to continue to be eligible.
All right. I don't have anything else, Laura.
I don't.
All right.
That's it for us, Mayor.
All right. We stand adjourned. Thank you so much for coming in.